Hello, I'm Tuppence. I've been doing a bit more cleaning in my craft room and I've gathered a load of stuff that I want to use up. I've had these things for ages and I just haven't used them, so I want to get rid of them. I'm going to be using UV resin with these silver bezels, and I've got an assortment of bits that I want to try to put in them. These are pieces of abalone or fake abalone that I tried to make using some nail gel polish. I did video that, so I will leave a link to that up above if you want to have a look at it. But I haven't used these since I made them, so I want to try and see if I can use them up now in the pendant, or at least some of them anyway. I've also got some things that you really wouldn't think about using, like these amethyst chips, the turquoise chips, and the glass mosaic tiles. Can I get these to fit into the bezels, and what effect will I get if I use them? Before I do anything, I want to sort out these amethyst chips. Now, these were really disappointing when I got them. There are a lot of them that are white, they don't have any colour in them at all, and the ones that should be purple are just not bright. Some of them look like they're grey. I put them out on my hand, you can see. That's not what I was expecting from amethyst chips. So I want to see if I can change the colour and brighten them up by adding a few drops of alcohol ink. This is raspberry by Adirondack, and I'm just going to put a couple of drops in the cup and shake them around so that they coat themselves. Now I'm going to put my hand over the top because that's going everywhere. Give that a quick shake and you can see that they are covered and they're already looking a lot brighter, a lot more colourful. Now I need to let these dry before I use it. There's one escaped there. I need to let them dry, so I have got a piece of laminated paper and I'm just going to spread this out. This is already plastic coated with the laminate, so I'm just going to get them all out. That's it. I'll leave them there. They should dry pretty quickly, but I'll give them a shake around to make sure that they dry evenly. And then I can put them in the bezels. Before I start though, I do need to put them on some bezel tape. So I've cut off a piece which I think will be big enough, and I am working on the acrylic plate of my UV lamp. I can't actually stick the moon down here. The hanging loop will not allow me to lay it flat. It sticks out beyond the bezel because it runs the opposite direction. You can see that this one is alright because the hanging loop is parallel to the bezel, so I can lay it down flat and get a good seal all the way round. I should have enough room to do 4 at once. I'm just going to leave a little gap in between so that they're not so close in case I get any leaks. And the last one can fit there. Now I do need to make sure that they are pressed down properly, but as you can see this tape is sticking to my gloves and sliding all over the place. So I'm going to fix that onto my plastic plate using a little bit of sticky tape. And I'll just tape down the 2 sides. I'm going to make sure they're pressed down really well. I'm using the box full of mosaic tiles. I want to start by adding a thin layer of resin into the bottom of each of the pendants. I'm using craft UV resin. So I'm just going to put a pretty good sized blob in each one. I don't need this layer to be very thick, so I'm going to spread that out until it covers the bottom of the tape. The frames are slightly beveled or angled out, so there is a little bit of a lip underneath there. So I'm just getting that brush right to the edges and getting rid of any bubbles that might cling. Once they're all done, I'm going to let them sit for a couple of seconds so that the resin can level out and the brush strokes can disappear. I'm using a torch to pop the bubbles, not getting too close so I don't melt the tape. I haven't cured the resin yet. I'm going to add my pieces directly in. So I'm going to start with these tiles. I already tried one in a bezel to see if it would fit, and it is exactly the same depth as the bezel, so these should work really well. These are a really pretty glass tile and they've got a white solid back, so the UV light won't shine through there, but I'm using a double-sided lamp to cure this. So the tile is a little wider than half the width of bezel, so I'm not going to be able to fit them side by side and fill it up, but I should be able to get a kind of checkerboard pattern. So I'm just going to push that right up to the top, and then I'll carry on adding them and arranging them. I'm dropping them into the resin and scooting them around, making sure that resin pushes up against the frame. Got a little bit on the top, so I'm just wiping that off before I cure it. And it looks like I can get 4 in with some little gaps in between. That works perfectly. All right, now I'm going to try the turquoise chips. I'm going to tip them in the lid, then I can sort through them and find the flattest ones that I have. I don't really want them sticking up above the bezel, and it's just a case of fitting them in a bit like a jigsaw puzzle. Gemstones are meant to hold meaning, and turquoise is said to instill calm and protect against negative energy, and I think we could all do with a little bit of that now. Alright, this is looking pretty good. I just need one more tiny one. Let's see if I can fit that in. Alright, might need to just twist these around a little bit. Yep, I think that fits pretty well. Alright, that's the second one done. Let me put those back. Alright, the next one are going to be these pieces of nail polish that I made into abalone flakes. And when I was sorting them, I found this piece, and I think that's going to fit perfectly. Look at that, like a glove. Yep, that looks great in there. I'm going to leave the rest of that as negative space. I might add some colour in there afterwards. So that leaves the last one and the amethyst pieces that I coloured. I tested these on a piece of tissue and they did not leave any marks, so they should be all dry. I'm really hoping that the colour is going to stay on these pieces and not leak into the resin. So I'm just going to keep placing them across the middle. I think I'm going to make a stripe if I can get it off the tweezers. So I'm just going to keep arranging these until I have the pattern that I like. Alright, the last one is going in now. And I think that's looking pretty good. I don't see any of that colour leaking out. So I'm just going to shuffle these around and try and follow the same angle as the edge of the diamond. That looks good. They're all covered in resin. I'm going to pop these all underneath my lamp for 5 minutes, and I'm using the dual-sided Let's Resin lamp. Actually, before they go under the lamp, I'm just going to take this piece out. I think that's a little too low down in the bezel. I'm going to cure that layer of resin first, and then I can add this in later. So I'm just going to pop that off to one side so it doesn't cure, and then I can put a layer of resin on top of it. Still got plenty of room. It's a pretty flat piece. And because I've taken that piece out, I'm just going to put a little bit more resin in and smooth that out again. I want to make sure that that bottom does have a nice even layer on it. And now I really am going to put these under the lamp for 5 minutes. First layer is cured. I'm going to add a little bit more resin on top so that I can stick down that nail polish shell. I'm just going to smooth that out. Get it nice and even. And then I can place that polish back in. So I'm just going to push that down. And I think that's a lot better. I've still got enough room to add a layer of resin on top. I love the colours in this one, especially when you add a little bit of resin over the top of it. It's hard to believe that this was only nail polish. I think this one looks great with those clear spaces, but I'm going to add some chunky glitter. I don't think you can go wrong with extra sparkle, especially on a pendant. I'm using an Opal chunky glitter, and I'm just going to put a little bit of UV resin into each of these spaces. And then I can drop the glitter on top and mix that together. So I'm just going to spread this out with my brush. Get it to level out. Then I can add the glitter on top, and that way I'm not mixing up more than I'm going to need. So I've got a pair of plastic tweezers. I'm just going to pick some up and drop that down on top. And I want quite a lot in each one. That is so pretty. I'm going to take my micro brush and stir that around so that it is all mixed into that resin. I will be adding another layer of resin, but I want to make sure that this is all flat first. There's a little bit of glitter on top of the tiles, so I'm just going to brush that in, and that will be ready to go underneath the lamp. I've put some UV resin into a silicone cup, and I've added a very small amount of gold glitter mica. This is from Mould. And I'm going to keep this fairly thin so that I can add it in layers. I'm going to add this onto the turquoise stones. There's enough space in between them that it should be visible from what will now be the front. So I was going to build this back to front. Now I've reversed it, and this is going to be the back. So I'm just going to spread that out using my brush. And I think I probably should have put a little bit more mica powder in there. So I'm just going to dip my brush into the powder and then paint that in directly. I can spread that around and make sure that that mixes. And this is going to be nice and strong and visible from the front. And I've still got plenty of room to add another layer. All right, that's looking pretty good. I'm also going to take some of the powder and I'm going to paint a line in the resin. That's going to make it look a little bit like veins. So I'm just adding some colour above. I'm not looking to make the lines solid or fill it in completely. I would like it to be a little streaky and yeah, more like veins. So I'm just going to spread that. And I think that looks pretty good. Yeah, I'm happy with that. All right, for the amethyst one, I just need to add another coat of resin. So I'm going to fill that in on either side. And it looks to me like some of that alcohol ink is bleeding in a little bit. So the quicker I get the resin cured, the quicker that should stop. So I'm just going to spread this out and then I'm popping this underneath the lamp to cure. Right, to finish off the rectangle one, I just need to add another layer of resin to seal the glitter in. So I'm just going to smooth that out, and there are some spaces between the tiles. So I just want to make sure that I get that level, and this is going to bring everything up to the same level as those glass tiles. So that will be finished once that's cured. I want to add a little bit more gold resin onto some of them, so I need to mix up a little bit more. Just put some more resin in my cup and then I can add some more mica powder. And I'm coating the back of the amethyst one. I wasn't really happy with the way that looked, so I'm hoping that this is going to improve it. I'm loving that swirl on the back too. I'm also going to add some onto the turquoise just to bring this up level. And it's really important that the backs look just as pretty as the front. So I'm just going to coat this and make sure that it's nice and smooth. And I think that's all I need to do for that one. I do need to add a little bit more resin onto this. So I'm just going to put a clear coat on top and dome this slightly. And I think that will probably be enough for this one. Or at least on this side anyway. Right, everything's going to go underneath my lamp for 5 minutes. Right, it's time to remove them from the bezel tape, and this is the Let's Resin one, so I shouldn't have any residue on the back. But it is stuck really well. That looks lovely. I really like this one. So pretty. Yeah, I think I'm going to keep it like that either. I'm not going to actually put anything on the back. Let's have a look at this one. Ooh, I like that too. I'm so glad I added that glitter behind it, the gold glitter. This one as well. Yeah, I like that. I don't think I'm going to keep the back clear. I might add something onto that. Probably some black or something. It does look like some of the alcohol ink has bled, but actually I still like it. I think that's pretty. I'm going to add a dome coat of resin to these because that will magnify what's inside them and it makes everything look a little bit more professional. So I've put some blobs of resin on and I'm using the microbrush stick to take that all the way to the edges and smooth it out. So I've obviously sped this up. I am not working that fast. Once I've got that nice and smooth, I'm going to use my torch to pop the bubbles really quickly. And these are going to go under my lamp for 5 minutes. Well, you can see that I have stuck some bezel tape onto the edge of my plastic sheet so that I can accommodate that loop. I'm going to be working on the moon pendant and I'm going to place that right on the edge as well. Just want to make sure that that open cavity is all on the tape and I can push that down. The loop is just hanging over the edge and that is properly sealed. So I should not have any leaks. Now that's in place, I'm going to be using an old bracelet. So I've had this for a while. It keeps breaking. I cannot get it to fix. So I'm going to cut this apart and use the beads. They are green glass beads and there are some black pearls. I think I'm probably only going to use the green beads. So I just need to go ahead and dismantle this. All right, same as before, I'm going to start by laying down a thin layer of resin. And you can see that I've got quite a few of the glass beads. I'm hoping I've got enough to fill this moon. So I'm going to spread that resin out using my brush. Get right up into the corners. You don't want any holes or gaps around the edges. That's not only going to let bubbles in, but it'll just be really weak. That looks pretty good. I'm going to give this a quick torch to pop any bubbles. Now I'm going to add in the beads. I want to try and fill this whole moon with the green stones. So I'm going to use my tweezers. Oh, I'm not really good with them. In fact, I'm going to give up with them already. I'm just going to use my hands and drop these stones in. Try and get as many in as I can. And then I can use my stick to move them into place. So I'm just going to go ahead, speed this up and add all the stones. Alright, I can take this off the tape now. As you saw, I did add another layer of resin on top. So these are pretty well sealed in. I really like the way that that looks. It's still a little lumpy on the front, and I don't mind that actually. I quite like the texture. But I'm not sure I like it being see-through. So I think I want to put something on the back. I'm going to lay this back down and make sure it's right on the edge so it's nice and flat. Because I want to add a little bit of resin with some sparkle. I'm going to be using some laser powder. This is a silver holographic mica powder. I don't need very much of it, so I'm just going to mix that little bit in. Well, I might need a little bit more than that. All right, 2 scoops, I think. You can see just how pretty that is. It glistens. So hopefully this will be visible from the front, and it's just going to give it a little bit of sparkle. I don't know, but either way, the back is going to look great. So I'm just going to cover all of that, spread it out, and then I'll pop this underneath my lamp to cure. It's probably going to need about 5 minutes. All right, that glitter is on the back. It's visible, but it's not quite giving me the shine that I want. So I'm going to add some of these yellow gems. They are citrines. I'm just going to put a blob of resin down so that I can spread that out and have something to stick them with. Whoops, I've already got one in there. That must have been on my brush or something. All right, so I'm just going to carry on spreading that resin out, and I've actually got quite a lot here. Yeah, in fact, I think I've probably got a little bit too much. I want to keep some of that texture. I think I'm going to try and remove some of this, so I'm just going to keep scooping it up with my brush until I have just enough to coat the surface. I don't know if you can see, but the gem that is already in there, that is, well, it looks like a smooth bubble, but it's the same as the other gems that are in the lid. They are faceted. Because it's got coated with resin, it loses those facets and it looks very different. It loses a lot of its shine and it just looks like a smooth bubble. So I'm going to take that out. And I just want enough resin on the surface to stick the gems down, but not enough to cover them. So I'm just going to keep removing some of that excess. I think that's probably enough. All right, now I need to pick these up. And then I can put them in the spaces. So I'm just going to carry on and add these onto the surface. And then I'll pop this underneath my lamp to cure them in place. Despite saying that I didn't want to cover any of these gems with resin, I'm actually going to add a layer over the top. I don't know if you can see, but for some reason I have got glitter on here and I really like the way it looks. I don't know where it came from, but it is here. So I'm going to spread out a little bit more resin and I'm going to add some glitter on the top. That's going to give this even more sparkle. So I'm just spread that out. I've done the minimum coat that I can, and now I'm going to pop some glitter on the top. I'm going to use that same Opal chunky glitter. And this stuff does get everywhere. So I'm just going to drop some pieces onto that resin. They can land wherever they land. I'm trying to get mostly the smaller particles. I don't want too many of those big hexagons. All right, I think that is probably enough. I'm going to use my brush to maneuver the pieces into place so that they're not covering up the gems and they are in the resin. When I'm happy with it, I'm going to put it under the lamp to cure for 3 minutes. I'm going to give it a final dome coat of resin because I really like the way that that magnifies everything. I've already covered the gems up anyway, and this is going to make sure that that glitter is sealed in. So for a final cure for 5 minutes. I've got one more piece that I want to add some colour onto the back, and I'm going to be using some black UV nail gel to tint my resin. This is my favourite way to get a black UV resin. You can be sure that it will cure because the gel polish is designed to cure without it even being diluted. So by adding some of the resin to it, you're still going to get a really strong black, but it will dilute enough to make sure that everything cures. So I've just put a little bit in there. I'm just going to mix this in and you'll see just how dark a colour I can get. Now all I have to do is use my brush to coat the back. As I spread this resin out, you can still see that gold layer through it, so it might need a couple of coats. So I'm just going to cover this first, pop it under the lamp to cure, and then I'll do a second coat, which you won't need to see as it's the same as this. Okay, they're finished. I've just got to add their fixings. I really like this one. I love the glitter in it. But full disclosure, I managed to drop this on the floor and I can now see a crack that runs across that glitter layer. But I really love it. I'm not worried about that. This, I think, is probably one of my favourites, despite the fact that it is literally made with nail polish. I think this is super pretty. Yeah, I'm really happy with that one. These can be either key rings or pendants. I think this is going to be a pendant. I really like this one, but if it was too plain, you could always add an initial using some vinyl, or you could do what I've done with this one. Now, if I can just grab the right jump ring, I've added a little chain with a silver initial. So the alcohol ink did bleed a little bit, but actually I think that is a really nice effect. And again, this would be perfect either as a pendant or as a keychain. So for the moon, I really, really like this one. I love green. It is one of my favourite colours, and just adding some of those sparkles, yeah, I like it. So you still can see that there are stones. I don't know if it's visible on the camera, but certainly when you hold it up to the light, you can see the individual stones. I'll try and get some close-up photos of these so that you get to see them in a little bit more detail. But that's it. I really hope that you've liked this video. If you have, please go ahead, give me a thumbs up, comment, share, subscribe if you haven't. It is free to you. It will really help my channel, and you'll be able to come back and see what I'm going to make next time. I'll leave you with the photos, but until then, thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye.